documenting the front lines of the AI revolution, the AI Rebels podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the AI Rebels podcast. We've got Danny Alberson here, the CEO and founder of Agentive, actively revolutionizing the audit, public accounting audit space, which is close to my heart. That's where I've spent a lot of time. So I am very excited to talk to you about this. Danny, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to speak with you, Jacob and Spencer. And yeah, I reached out to you originally just because you're an auditor in the space who's interested in AI. And so I wanted to talk to you about my product and get your feedback on it. And
perfect.
I'd love to do some of that in this interview if it comes up. As you interview me, I'd love to also interview you to
fantastic.
Show why we're building what we're building makes a difference.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think day to day, I feel like I see more and more. I'm like, oh my gosh, why are we not using AI for this right now? So I'm excited to see what you've done. Tell us a little about Agentive. What's the big idea here? What's the mission?
So let's take a step back and talk about my first day as an auditor at Ernst Young. So I studied accounting and really studied how to be like an audit partner, how to talk about the riskiest parts of an auditor, how to be like a CFO. And then my first day as an auditor at Ernst Young, I was sitting at Bloomin' Brands headquarters, the people who run like Outback Steakhouse and so many other restaurants.
Okay.
And I was sitting there and they were like, okay, your job is to just make sure that people who approve these transactions have the right job description that gives them the authority to approve these transactions, and make sure the person requesting it was not the same person who approved it. And that took me like hours and hours and hours. And then my next task was also just reconciling information in documents. And I was like, is this really the job? It's like, why wasn't this the job description? I was like, we should be able to automate so much of this. Like I did a software development /sales product internship while I was in school. And I know like how you can automate so much work with technology, but I wasn't allowed to automate it as an auditor. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, while at EY, I was able to switch from being a financial statement auditor to a management consultant who did product management. And the next thing you know, I found myself as the product manager at Universal Studios in Orlando, designing the virtual queuing system in the water park.
Fascinating.
I built and shipped software for the next 6 years at EY, but I always was like, man, I really wish I could go back and fix. Like I planned on becoming an auditor, but I realized my passion for improving processes and was much more, I had to follow that instead of like dealing with experiences that I couldn't improve. And so I've always kind of wanted to fix that. And then when ChatGPT really started to improve, when GPT-4 came out, that Saturday I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out what this is a once in a generation technological shift. How can this be applied to a business pain point that I've experienced or that I'm aware of that hasn't been solved yet, that now can be solved with AI? And I immediately thought back to my time as an auditor and realized so much of the reconciling information with documents can now be automated because LLMs can understand sentences, understand paragraphs, understand context better than you can with just OCR-based like matching. And so the YC application was due in 2 weeks. I gathered up some friends and we applied and got in. And at the time I was a product manager at Facebook building augmented reality glasses, which I thought was my like dream and passion. But I realized more and more after I worked for really large companies that I just want to build the software that I believe should exist in the world and not the bureaucracy layers to get it done. And so I left what I thought was my dream job and incredible compensation to now be a startup founder who raised a good amount of money to give it a go at this, but I'm not making nearly as much as I'd be if I was still at Facebook. But and so largely Agentive exists to solve the pain points of auditors and to solve the pain points of how they interact with their clients and their client relationships. Because I felt it, my friends and family still feel it, and I think they can be solved and they just haven't. And so that's our mission. That's why we exist. And we look for the pain in auditing and are vertically integrating experiences in order to get rid of them and make auditing more.
So the name of the company is Agentive. I'd be curious to hear, did you start with an agentic approach originally, or was that something that you guys ended up working your way into and, then derived the name from there?
Yeah, good question. So the name originally was Audit AI. And I was like, well, I need a better name than this. And so I started struggling. And then, the term substantive testing or substantive testing?
Yeah.
That's it's particularly important to accounting. But then people thought we only did like substantive testing. and people always got confused whether it was substantive or substantive. And
Yeah.
so I wrote a research paper at Northwestern in my product design graduate program that I dropped out of to join Facebook. But anyways, my research paper was on agentive design and the concept of like, you should give technology a job and it should go and do it for you and just continue to do it for you. And so the ultimate vision of agentive is to do continuous audits on companies without human interaction. Just the AI can go and do the auditing all on its own. And it's kind of like a Roomba. So my research paper was on agentic design, how Roombas can, they have a trash can that can, it can fill up for like a month or like 2 months or something before you have to empty. But that's where all design and all technology needs to go towards. It's you
Interesting.
ask and job, and then it comes back when it's done, or it just keeps doing the job forever. And so when I was thinking of a company name, I thought back to my research paper and chose Agentive. And I just had never heard of the term agentic when I was at Northwestern, when I did all this, or at this point, like I hadn't heard the name agentic. And so I just thought back to the research I did on agentive design and how I believe that's how technology should operate.
So it's just a very happy coincidence.
Yeah. Well, also it's always been like the entire like vision of agentive is, so in a nutshell, auditors need to choose what audit procedure they're doing today. They need to request the evidence from a client. As soon as the client uploads it, agentive drafts, like it completes an AI drafted version of their audit work paper for them and it's ready for review. And so it's, you give agentive a job and we'll go and do it for you and come back. And becoming more agentic or agentive over time is the vision. So it's very fitting. It's always been like, we're never wanted to be just a chatbot. We always wanted to be give us a job and we'll go do it and do it well.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think obviously you guys are preparing to really start getting this out to the public, but what are the initial pain points you're hoping to, what's the core here that you're trying to address? What are some of the tasks you're hoping to do, things like that?
Yeah. So on our strategy of solving pain points in in auditing, we've realized there's a huge opportunity. Well, first of all, I'll tell you how we started. So we started in the bulk of audit hours in an engagement are spent doing, let's say on small and medium audit firms, it's spent doing test of details, where it's like bringing facts in the financial statements to facts in supporting documents. And with Agentive, our original ambition was to reduce the amount of hours auditors spend mindlessly testing audit evidence. They should be jumping straight to review instead of manually searching for the same facts in documents over and over and over again. And that's how we started out. But we realized auditors really are often stuck in their ways and want to follow the same process that they've always followed. And sometimes learning new technology can be hard. And honestly, Gary Tan, I really like how I said this. Every product is terrible when it first launches, but you need to iterate in order to get great. And we've definitely iterated on our product side to make it incredibly intuitive and easy to use. But when you first launch a product, it's like trying to figure out how can you be a product that people use every single day. And what we've realized is we can make our product an incredibly enjoyable experience to use if we link it with the process of requesting evidence from the client. And one of the problems was people would give us really unorganized documents. And so what we've actually done is we've looked into the client request process. And Jacob, when you request, have you ever requested evidence to go along with a sample or a selection of transactions that you need to test?
Many.
So the way that you request that today is you upload an Excel file, right, of transactions.
So you draw the sample and it selects 20 transactions and you send that. Depending on the firm, they have different ways to do it. We have kind of a third external facing hub for them to upload to. We say, hey, can you upload these? And they go upload all the support there.
And when they upload it, they're uploading, or you upload an Excel file and say, hey, download this Excel file, look through all these transactions and give me the invoice and bank statement for each row in the Excel file, right? So one of the things we've done is instead of uploading an Excel file, you paste the transaction data table in our product, and then we add a column for every document type you want to get for each row in this table. So it's for the transaction one, here's a spot at the intersection of bank statement and a spot at the intersection of invoice, where the client can actually keep track of what they provided, because clients often, it's really annoying for them to organize the data to make sure they've provided all the right data. And then in your product, in the way you do auditing today, they have to actually go and organize all this data, make sure they've uploaded everything, but then they dump it into one unorganized bucket. And you have to take all the unorganized files that they at one point in time had organized Now it's unorganized when you download it, and then you have to go back and reorganize it and match it to all the selections or transactions.
Yeah. Sounds familiar. Yep.
We've designed a process where they organize it as they upload it, and we can still allow them to upload unorganized files, but we found clients actually like being able to see that they've checked off every document type they've needed for each request.
For sure. So is it on the sample, like each sample item? So I draw a sample, 20 items. There's a line for each item.
Yeah, it's just like in Excel, like it's a table, right? It's like each row is a transaction or each item, and then you have the columns, whatever columns you normally have, then we add columns at the right for the document types you're requesting for each row.
Got it.
And now this is like actually better structured data. So now we can take this data and pipe it right into our automation platform that uses AI to say, do the details agree between the data in the financial statements, which is like the sample data, and then the documents that were uploaded? Do these agree? Do they reconcile? And then we can go through the other questions. Was it accounted for correctly? Was it in the right quarter? Was it properly authorized? And other attributes that need to be tested. We can use AI to test that and populate the audit work paper that you would have had to do manually. And the best part is we do all of that work within a minute of the client clicking submit for review.
Yeah, that's wild.
And so now we alert you and let you know when it's ready for review. We even have comments per selection. So if the auditor has questions about a certain selection, the client will log in and see comments in line right next to those documents. They can click a cell and then see that bank statement and the comment that the auditor has about it, and they can provide all the context without having to download or relook up the files. And we're just making it easier for auditors to interact with their clients. And actually what we find a lot of our auditors do is they'll send requests a month or two in advance, and they'll never look at what clients have provided until they get started on the procedure, just because of the friction it takes to like figure out if they provided the right documentation. It's pretty high. And so with Agentive, now our clients are able to review the evidence clients upload very quickly because they have it in the context of their work paper and they have all the information sitting in front of them, pre-populated by AI. And so if a client does need to provide additional support, or maybe they provided the wrong information, they can tell them in a day instead of waiting a month or two. And
that's huge.
That makes clients, it significantly reduces the pain or the harm to an auditor-client relationship if you can tell them about issues while they still remember what
exactly
what they gathered for you, if that makes sense.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, they upload it 2 months go by and you finally are like opening it, and then you send them an email and you're like, how long have you had this? Why are you asking me this question now?
And the reason why we added in this client request function, and we've been heads down making sure that we build a product that our customers use every single day. We're incredibly proud that we've done that. And now we have our design partners who've been fantastic. We've onboarded a few new customers in the last couple months. We've just been focusing on making it the best auditing experience. Now the business season's ending, we're shifting into sales mode. And there's a few competitors that we can clearly tell a story like, look, your audit software is causing pain to your relationship with your clients. And it's one of the reasons why you have high churn in your auditors. I mean, Jacob, it's one of the reasons why you're now considering other opportunities. And we exist to increase auditor job satisfaction, retention, attracting new professionals to the profession, and to making the auditor-client relationship better. That's why we exist.
Yeah, I love that. I was going to say that it digs into not just the auditor-client relationship, but the internal firm relationship with their employees, because I'm convinced that's why, the accounting firms do have such large churn, particularly in the first, 1 to 4 years, is because in that 1 to 4 years, that's where you're doing all this work that the AI can now do. So you're not getting to the interesting stuff. You're not doing let me dig into this and figure out how this works. It's checking boxes for a few years.
And you're spending your time where the risk isn't.
Yeah.
There's relatively low risk relatively low risk where people spend most of their time, and that isn't needed anymore. We have so many ideas that we're keeping somewhat hidden because we have competition that's constantly reviewing our products. And I can't tell you how many solution architects from $1 billion giant in the industry that have, tried to add me on LinkedIn. And it's like, I know they're trying to reverse engineer what we're doing. So I'm super excited to release those things over the next coming month. But yeah, anyways.
That's actually a good segue to a question I had, which is as a non-auditor, no familiarity whatsoever with, the auditing process. I'd be curious to hear, what is it about the current and most recent wave of AI that has made this software possible as compared to previous rule-based AIs, surrounding we've had pretty good OCR for a long time, and we've had pretty good rule-based systems. So I'd be curious to hear, what is unique about language models and the current wave of AI that has made this possible?
Yeah. So the reality is creating a solution that can be generic and can self-heal and self-improve is the main difference. One of our major competitors, for example, you have to sit there and draw boxes around data in like a PDF.
That's gross.
The way to do it is it's purely based on OCR data. Find me all the boxes that look like this in every document, and then extract the text behind it. But with us, you ask a question. And but one of the bigger differences is they've added, since we've launched that, they've added the ability to ask questions and get results from documents. But the way that they do their product is it puts it, so every question you have gets put as like a row, and then every document you ask gets added as a column. But then they have a document matching feature where you can say, these are the transactions I requested evidence for, and here's, have you used this product before, Jacob? You know the one I'm talking about?
I might. The drawing boxes sounds familiar, if it's the one I'm thinking of.
No worries. But it's like they have these different features, but they're all broken into different features in their like Excel add-in. And so they all end up in different sheets. And when they tell you how to do different audit procedures, you have to like piece together information across several different tools. But with us, you can set up a work paper template in one flow, and we can say this value is matched to this document, and now I want to ask this question referencing this value, and then I want to have another AI prompt that references the outcome of that work. And if we get it wrong, we use an AI agent to think why they got it wrong and what else they need to do. And we're building it more and more, like it's called like function calls or tools. We're giving our agents more tools to be able to complete more of the audit and self-correct and heal when things go slightly wrong. But in OCR, if something went wrong, like if a value didn't match, it's just done. You can't ask the guy to say, why didn't this match? Or like, why do you think like this document was provided? Is it just wrong? Or like, was it fraud? Like, anyways, the AI can actually think and like make recommendations for what to do next. OCR would just fail.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge, because I mean, there are so many tools, and some of the firms are investing very heavily in AI. But I think up until this point, like you said, like robotic process automation, things like that, you can build this whole flow. But then if the client uploads a different formatted document from the previous year, build a new flow because it doesn't work anymore. And so it didn't make as much sense, just because a lot of the procedures are not 100% consistent year over year.
And just to be clear, the tech that has been released up to this point is great. It was great for the time, but where we think we're going to win versus our competitors is they're still built around the data model of like Excel and different features, and they're very limited in how they can tie their tools together. And it's our vision of like taking your audit work paper, structuring it in Agentive with AI prompts that understand like what procedure you're doing, what attributes get judged to have to determine the outcome of that procedure, and then building a workflow where as soon as the client uploads the data, we run through your audit work paper. And in one click, you can export that to Excel, and you no longer have to fill it out or manually like fiddle things. Some things might not get filled in because the evidence just isn't there, or you needs more human judgment.
What was the bulk of it before is 90% of it is quick. You just have to do it. It's that last 10% that's the strategic, hard to find, hard to figure out. You have to dig into accounting guidance, whatever it is. If you can eliminate the 90% and just focus on that, that's where everything starts to get more interesting. It's just better.
On that note, obviously hallucinations are still a problem with language models. They've gotten a lot better, way better than I think people realize, honestly. But I'm assuming that you guys have dealt with that issue, and I'd be curious to hear, how do you engineer around that? Or is there some level of error that is acceptable within these processes?
So great question. What we do is, for the most part, all of our answers point back to citations, is what we call them, inside of the documents. And so in one
makes a lot of sense.
You can be taken from like where AI says it got its answers from the document, and you can have many citations. But sometimes like OCR is just terrible. So like if you're looking at like whether or not this document was approved and who is it approved by, it's reading a human signature. you have like what OCR matches the signature as to what the person's actual was can be entirely off. And so like there's just no way unless you get more and more data of what their signature looks like, which isn't going to come in an audit sample. Anyway, so there's just some things you just can't do. But we still take them to the signature area. And then we might say yes or no, but it's like we take them to the signature area and they draw a conclusion and quickly click like valid, exception, like they can interact and classify it correctly. So our goal is to help them jump straight to review and give them the context they need to finish their job a lot faster than if they would have done it manually or offshored it and like send it offshore, which is what a lot of firms do today, which produces much lower quality results than AI can.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask about the offshoring because I know the firm I'm at, I know almost all the big firms have some sort of offshore team.
Yeah.
Have you had any feedback from firms or even people offshore? Because this reduces the need for that drastically, if not completely eliminates it.
So a lot of our like customers, what they end up doing is treating their offshore teams like higher level, like staff and seniors on engagements or even managers. And so they're actually doing really high level work. It's not just when I worked at EY, it was really the low level work. And so what's going to need to happen is those offshore teams are just need to upskill and handle more like the riskier parts of audits. They're going to need to do the same work that auditors do in the US. But here's the thing, Americans don't like that work. People in other countries don't either. And so there's already a shortage of accountants like being interested in the profession. And so there's plenty of work to go around. And we can just work less during busy season, to be honest. That would be great.
Right. Yeah. Just work normal hours all year long. Yeah. Crazy idea.
Yeah. And we have an engineer who lives in India right now that we were introduced to is absolutely fantastic. I think the model of collaborating with offshore resources and a global like talent is here to stay, but they're just going to do more important work than they have in the past.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. It'll just enable the upskilling of everybody. Yeah. So you mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to come back to it because it's so true. I mean, all professions, like you have your workflow, you have the way you did it. In auditing, right, they call it SALI, same as last year.
Yeah.
Which is, you establish the way you do it and you do it forever. So that being one obstacle, but I'm curious, as you guys have strategized how to market this, how to get firms to adopt this, what are the biggest obstacles you're coming across?
Great question. The biggest obstacle, I would say, is that, like, let me see here. I really like the last 3 people we've shown our product to, they've bought. And so I'm like slightly jaded on what the biggest obstacle is. And so we launched
That's a good sign.
Yeah, we launched request like at the end of January. And so like before it was, honestly, I think it was the friction of going into a web app outside of your normal workflow. But now that we've made client requests, every time you create a client request, first of all, like we've integrated sampling to make it 10 times easier than the Excel forms people use for sampling today or whatever it is. But so now we automatically choose your sample for you based on your criteria and in accordance with, auditing standards. And then you have your request. And then at the bottom, it's add automation. And then you can quickly set up matches and AI prompts and select from templates from other, like if you have pre-configured procedure. And we're about to make it to where you can take the work paper procedure. And actually, when you start your request, you're starting with the procedure you're going to be completing. And then we know what type of documents you're requesting. You just add your sample and then everything runs. So now that we are removing friction from the end-to-end process, we've listened to our customers and we've paid attention to how they've used the product, where people have friction, and we've solved it by everyone already uses a website to request audit evidence from their clients.
Right.
Now it's just, sometimes it's even easier than sending a request without Agentive, like in the old platforms. We're easier to send a request and get it right in Agentive and add automation in less friction than it was to just send a request in the platform they were using before. And so that's really what we're focusing on, is just the absolute simplest experience.
Yeah. So, that's huge. Simplicity with AI. It's so easy to get excited about features and just go nuts, but simple, easy to use is huge. You mentioned regulations. Auditing is one of the most regulated industries, rightfully so. It's, it's keeping the free markets free and truthful. And they're always evolving, right? A few years ago, they released ASC 606, which was how to audit revenue. It changed. Like it fundamentally shifted in how you audited revenue. And then it fundamentally shifted how you audit leases. I'm curious, how are you you build this, but then because each process that, let's say I'm doing a revenue sample, like the way you test that is different than leases, right? You need to review contracts, you need to review all these different, I guess the bones of it are the same. You're reviewing documents and looking for certain things, but those things are different. So I'm curious, how are you integrating that into this process? Are you training your AI on the manual? How does that work?
So great question. And the answer is we're evolving that over time. We're getting better and better. But right now we match. So we don't go and study what those regulations are and create work paper templates or test for that. Like we take our clients' test in the formats they already have set up and we match our product to their existing structure. So whatever information they would have had to gather to make those assessments, we help them gather that automatically. And then we do use AI to make those assessments for them. But we use the procedures they define, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Their processes. And so they come to us and say, hey, here's a new process we want. And right now we're like white glove servicing all of our clients. But we'll figure out the right model for that moving forward, whether I think we're at a point now where in about a few weeks, they'll be able to do it self-serve without any of our help. Because we've iterated enough on their feedback and watched them use it. And so they'll be able to self-serve all that template creation.
It's amazing.
And output it in like the format that they would have had to manually pre-fill themselves, if that makes sense. And so, we're just fitting, like they're the experts. We serve them and create tools they can use to automate their workflows.
Yeah. I think I like that answer because I was going to ask a follow-up about with the regulation. Let's say a firm gets fined and they're using Agentive, if that firm would come after you. But this way you're almost eliminating that. You're like, no, we're the tool. They're the ones that make the decisions. They build it. Yeah. We're just a tool. No one comes after Excel because they did something wrong in Excel, right? No one goes after Microsoft. It's kind of a similar idea.
Yeah. And so auditors are critically important. They have to inspect, we're not trying to, we all know people that say they tested these things and just go through and check it off in order to move faster through to meet their billable hours or to meet the budgets of different tests. I wish that weren't true, but there are some people that just skip testing and say they did it. And some reviewers do the exact same thing to move faster in busy season. I do think audit quality is going to improve with AI, but at the end of the day, we point people to the right place. And with the citations, we're very accurate based on the questions that they ask. But those are pretty straightforward and easy. But we don't, auditors still need to inspect everything manually. We don't want this turned over to 100% AI. I think it's important that humans are in the loop and doing the actual confirmations.
So kind of on that note, on the thread of confirmations, would there ever be a plan to kind of have something that is client facing as well, where an audit client uploads some data and immediately Agentive is like, this is not what we're looking for. This is a clown brochure, right? Have you looked into anything like that, or is the focus mostly on serving the auditors, serve the auditors, serve the auditors?
So, we do all of that analysis within a minute of the client uploading the files, but we don't show it to the audit client because, at the end of the day, the audit client knows what's being looked for and they know the details they're asked for. But do we show the audit client and say, hey, this invoice or this revenue was recorded in the wrong quarter? It was, it's supposed to be in year 2024 revenue, but you included in 2025. You're shifting revenue around to manipulate, your stock market price, essentially, right?
I see.
Yeah, we don't do that. And part of the reason is, simply put, the auditor needs to be the one to break that news, not software, not ours.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We want a client relationship to be we want the auditors to be in control of the auditor-client relationship and not to be the ones to send that message, if that makes sense.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense philosophically.
Yeah. When we had Professor Wood on from BYU, we started talking a little bit about the nature of, I think we talked about this with someone else too, but audits, along with lawyers, for example, law firms, or all these customer service firms are billing based on billable hours. I know you mentioned that, Danny. So let's say someone starts using Agentive and they slash their hours by 50%. How are your clients pitching this to their customers to not be so the customer's not great, I'll pay you 50% of what I paid you last year?
Jacob, auditors don't bill based on billable hours. They do fixed fee engagements for actual audits, but they
that's true.
Hours.
But
Yeah, and they will like ask for, out of scope fees, if they go over billable hours. But my response to that is like audit firms like always have to be competitive, and the reason why they started offshoring work was to lower the cost of engagements. But audit firms have never been more profitable, and revenue has just kept going up, even though they've started using offshoring firms, which arguably reduce the cost to do an audit engagement. So it's like you've lowered the cost of doing an audit engagement, but audit fees have kept going up and are still in line. I forget the exact stat, but it's like percentage of revenue from a publicly traded company that goes to audit fees has just been the same or slightly going up. So I think margins have just been going up at these firms. I don't think it's a problem. Like it is value-based billing. I mean, it is a commodity, quite frankly. It's like you have a class of big four audit opinions. Some people are willing to pay that. Some people aren't. And then you go smaller firms. But outside of those two pricing bands, if you will, it's a commodity and it's relationships-based work. And so it's who do you want to work with based on relationships, I think is what it comes down to. And it's value-based billing. And so I think audit firms, instead of like spending less time on engagements, can spend more time on where risks actually are and actually teaching younger auditors how audits really work instead of just having them match documents to details all day. They can mentor and train and create better auditors and improve the quality of advice and feedback they give their audit clients.
Has there been anything, as you've built these agents, have they done anything that surprised you? Obviously you're building them, so maybe not, but.
So it's not really that they've done anything that has surprised us, but it's actually how, like, what people do with the product that surprises us. I mean, it's kind of crazy. We were waiting to push like an update to our product and need everyone to be off of our servers. And I was like dumbfounded that like 3 people were like online at like Saturday at like 11:30 p.m. using our product.
Like, get off.
Go to sleep, like stop working. I know this is busy season, but like, oh my goodness, they're literally relying on our product to help them get this done so they can go to sleep. Anyways, okay, so going back, it's how people use the product. And so seeing people use our product on a Saturday night at 11:30, it's like, I knew busy season was rough, but I never worked till midnight on Saturday. And let alone there's 3 people from 3 different firms all on. We couldn't push our code until they finally went to bed at 12:30 in the morning, Utah time. And hearing people say that they were going to do control-based testing, but then they did test the details because they were able to test 100% of the expenses in a company using Agentive, and it was incredibly easy. Yeah, anyways, it's just really rewarding to hear those. So when I think about what has AI done that's surprising, I don't think anything's been super surprising when it comes to what people like do with our product, that they're using it as we expect. But quite frankly, as we're building the product, we're amazed at how much easier it is to build software. So for example,
that's cool.
We're about to release some products that other people charge a ton of money for, but that you only have to build once. And we're about to give those away. Actually, I can say we're giving away a sampling tool that we built in an okay amount of time, but we're building it once. And we're just going to give it away for free because our competitors are charging for it. But our strategy is going to be like, hey, look, we want to improve the quality of audits. Small and medium audit firms might not be paying for like sampling tool or tools that can detect statistical anomalies. And we're going to give that away for free and in a much better experience than what our competitors are charging for. And we're going to give it away for free just because it honestly was very easy to build with AI. And we don't give it away for free. Like it's all just going to be a prompt away in a couple of months. And so we'll just want to give it away for free as an effort of goodwill, because it's practically free because you can ask AI models to build these things. We're wrapping it into our experience, which is where the value really is a part of that requesting evidence from a client and doing the testing you need to. So what's surprising us is it's changing our business model, and the business model, it's allowing us to disrupt our competition by saying, you know what, small audit firms, like stop paying $1,000 a month for this sampling software or I don't know, $3,000, whatever you pay. We're going to give it to you for free. And also we just want to show you how else we can like try it out, see how much better designed it is versus what you pay for today. And then we want to show you the rest of our product, which is another step function improvement in experience-led design. And it's all, and the focus is solving pain points for your auditors and your relationship with your clients. That's going to be our value pitch. So it immediately allows us to quickly build software that used to be really more complex to build. At the end of the day, sampling statistical models, but now we can do it really easily with AI, and we can just give that away for free as a way to beat our competition who's currently charging for something they built once and haven't touched in years, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's making company building really fun. And we're also like a team of 6, but like we're competing against, I'm very confident we've built software that is much better than companies that are worth like billions. And that's really fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious, have there been any auditing tasks that you've thought like, no way we can ever get AI to handle this, that you have now gotten AI to handle?
So great question. And we have a pretty clear roadmap of where we're going. And as we like build more functions or tools available to our agents, we're going to handle more open-ended like audit tasks. But I mean, at the end of the day, we don't way oversimplify this, but you have a document, you ask a question, you get back a response.
Right.
It's pretty straightforward, but as we start integrating things like the ability for AI models to go and do research on accounting regulations and come back and apply those, that is exciting to me. Like it's less like I've seen, I mean, how do those, like I understand as a former product manager, when new technology comes out, I immediately say, how does this apply to auditing? Where can I apply it? And so those things don't really surprise me as much after they happen, but I'm shocked at how well AI can now do research. Paying OpenAI, their deep learning, what is it called? Deep learning? Yeah.
Deep research.
Deep research. That's what it is. Yeah. Deep research. Yeah. Never use DeepSeek. Only use OpenAI deep research and Perplexity's deep research function as well. And as well as Grok's. But anyways, the amount of research they're able to do and come back and analyze, or even just thinking models in general, that's incredibly impressive. And so it doesn't surprise me once I take those and apply them to auditing. It doesn't surprise me much anymore, but I am shocked at how great the amount of research they can do. Like there's entire groups at these audit firms that just sit there and do research. And now they're going to be able to 10x their efficiency on research, which is incredible.
For sure.
Yeah. And so that surprises me, but how do you apply that to auditing? I'm less surprised once we've thought through that. How do we apply that innovation to our customers?
I feel this is a trend we're seeing, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Spencer, but as we've interviewed all these founders and all these thought leaders from all these different industries, initially it's like, oh my gosh, AI is going to change the world, and it is, but it's not as intrusive as everyone thought it would be. Once you start using it, it kind of naturally will form to your workflow. You can plug it in that wherever it makes sense to you, but you just have to start trying. It's truly just a mindset shift. And for each person, it's a little different what gets you to start using it, but once you start, you can't stop.
No, it's addictive.
I was at Sam Altman's house, almost, I guess, a year and a half ago now. And in San Francisco, it's like intelligence is just an API call away. And the intelligence that OpenAI is producing and that Sam Altman has envisioned, it's just, they're rapidly progressing. A lot of people ask us, do you train your own models? And it's like, why would we do that? New models are released every few months. They're great at what they do. There's no need to train custom models. Everyone thinks there's this competitive mode in like training models. That's just a lower cost. I mean, the recent advancements, O1 Pro or O3 Mini or Claude 3.7, like they're fantastic and incredibly good. And we're able to leverage those things, like those models, to drastically improve like auditing every time those come out. There's no value in us training our own models because anyways, it's fine tuning. You can't get the performance. We need to stay at the bleeding edge, and those are going to come from the research firms. And I just loved hearing from Sam Altman. You need to link up to the people who are producing the highest innovations. And that's where you're really going to be able to innovate and do the most, is not trying to lower cost or maybe handle certain use cases slightly better by fine tuning models, but staying close to the models that are being released at the cutting edge is what's allowing us to innovate and move faster in our product development and in the capabilities of our software for our customers.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. I think that I've talked about this before, but I think that people somewhat underestimate how marginal intelligence is, where, you get to a certain point and each new intellectual task, in the end, it's all the little tiny small things that have to add up. And it's been exciting to watch AI over the last couple of years start to get more and more of those little small things right. I mean, even just like, basic arithmetic, still not great, but like they're a lot better than they used to be. And it's exciting to see, like I said, it's exciting to see all those little things start to add up.
That thing, my engineering co-founders like, oh, why can't we have AI do this? In auditing, you actually need it to be verifiably reproducible. So we actually build Excel functions into our product so that we can display like the variance between these dates or these numbers. We should not just, even though AI can get it right, 100% of the time, you need to be able to audit it. So we should not have AI do the math formulas. Like we need to build Excel functions and Excel-like functions so that we can, anyways, like take
makes sense.
Part of that, make it a verifiable, you can't rely on AI to do the logic. It has to explain itself. by that point, an Excel function is better when it comes to math.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
It is tempting to say, oh, let's just turn it over to AI. But it's like, no, auditors have to produce documentation that proves that they've done this audit procedure.
Well, and I think that in general, that's going to be very, very necessary for any type of agentic AI approach. I've long thought that the thing that's going to hold back agentic approaches to AI is not necessarily the capabilities of the AI itself, but our capabilities to supervise and observe the actions of that AI. And so it's fun to hear about different approaches to that. We had some guys on earlier this year that have a whole testing framework specifically for testing, agentic AI and et cetera. Anyways, it's fascinating to watch this field grow and mature.
Yeah.
There's so much left to do.
What's interesting about what you just said, it's how you manage, how you assign tasks and how you evaluate them. That's the same process of managing a human.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Seriously.
And that's the point I've been trying to make to people is listen, these things are a lot more human than you think they are. They're not human, but the way they act and the way you manage them, it gets a little spooky sometimes almost.
And there will be people that just manage teams of AI agents.
Yeah.
And AI agents that manage teams of AI agents. It's the world is going to change, but at the end of the day, you have to change with it. There's no stopping it. Technological processes
will ride the bull.
Continue. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. I think agents really are going to play a large role in the next evolution of AI. It just makes so much sense. It's how you're going to build teams. It's how you're going to have holistic approaches to problems, is having agents doing different roles. Yeah. That's the same thing as a human team, right? That's why we have teams. That's why you have multiple people in the room when you're trying to make a decision. And now you can have that with AI. You can say, you're this, attack this problem. It's going to be amazing. It's happening, and it's just going to be amazing to see it keep going.
Yeah, it's incredible. It is interesting interacting with people who are anti-AI. I haven't really, I've felt more resistance from some other software engineers than I actually have from auditors. This one software engineer I talked to, he's telling me the coding interview that his startup does, which very few people at this startup, which is it's very successful. It's pretty large, it's still growing, so it still qualifies as a startup, but they asked a question about can you create a program that accurately calculates a bowling score across all the frames in a game and handles all the rules? And that's their take-home coding quiz. And someone asked if they could use AI, and the guy used GitHub Copilot, and the code didn't work, and he also didn't understand how to change and edit the code in the interview. And I was I'm very confident I can one-shot that right now on my phone with Claude. One paragraph prompt. I asked Claude to do it, create a React app that could do it, and it's people, so there's still just a ton of the world that doesn't understand how much can be done by someone who understands AI and understands how to use it. And I asked him, would I do better than, and I'm not a software engineer by trade. I know design, and I do know how to program mostly on the front end as someone who has a web development background or web design background more so. But AI has enabled me to be the designer of a product. And that's been a lot of fun to get into that, to make sure that it's the quality that we need for our clients or our customers. But AI is much more powerful than most people understand.
That's why we have this podcast, trying to get the word out.
Spread the word, preach it.
Jake, did you have any more questions?
I don't think so. I was just going to ask you, Danny, because you've had this background in tech. And as we wrap up, I'm curious the advice you would give. You're on the cusp here. You have customers, you built this product, and now you're on this cusp of, okay, we're going to sell this thing. I would not be shocked if we have you on again in 6 months and you're, crushing it, because just the way it sounds like people won't say no. So it's going to go places. But what advice would you give to people who are trying to do the same thing you're doing? What are some things that you've learned?
Oh my goodness. First of all, you can design the life you want and you can achieve it. Sales is the ability to get what you want in life. It's persuasion. It's people believing in you. It's people trusting you. But you need to have a goal of what you want. So you need to decide what you want. If it's to start a company, start telling people you want to start a company. And go ask AI, what are the steps to do it? And pitch investors. I wrote so just full disclosure, not disclosure, whatever. I grew up really humble circumstances, food stamps. Yeah. Anyways, grew up in a rougher neighborhood. And I am someone who honestly, becoming an auditor at the Big Four was a huge accomplishment for me. I thought that was the height of my potential. And then I got to UI and I learned, wow, I'm just as good as any of these guys. Then I switched over to management consulting. It's like, wow, I am better at my job than some people who went to Ivy League schools. And this is fun. I really have no limits. And then I moved over to big tech and it was like, oh, now I almost exclusively work with people from Ivy League like backgrounds. And I'm really good at this too. And it's like, you should just be ambitious, set your goals. And then I filled out an application to Y Combinator in one day. I filled out the application and submitted a video and then had a 7-minute interview and raised $500,000 and then quit my incredibly well-paying job to make less money as a founder. But you can just do things. Be high agency. Just try to do it. Like, what's the worst that happens? People tell you no. I mean, that's happened to me all the time. But I'm not afraid of being told no. I was a Mormon missionary for several years. And I think that's where I really honed the ability to not be deterred by rejection and to just keep pushing until I find people who are interested. If you try to pitch an investor, you try to pitch a customer and they're not a believer, first of all, you need to figure out if you really believe it yourself, because you should only be, I'm going to use the term selling, but you should only be selling something you truly believe in and that you know is going to work, but, or that you believe is going to work, and then deliver on that. But there will be people who will believe in you. There will be people who will trust you. And every time you face rejection, try to learn from it. But if you can't learn from it, and maybe the other people are just wrong, and that's okay. Contrarian ideas are always the ones that are the most outliers when it comes to success. So just keep going. There's no reason why you can't do what I've done. I didn't have connections growing up in where I did in Florida, but I just told people what I was working on and people came out of the woodworks to help me, and I built relationships along the way. And to my surprise, when I fundraised for this company, I ended up having 3 bosses that I worked for who put checks in personally alongside other great venture capitalists that do this professionally. I was shocked that those people came out and wanted to invest, and I didn't know they could. And you might be surprised at people that will come out and invest in your ideas if you actually put the action in and start building something. Mm-hmm. So build the team and start building it and figure out if it's something people want. You don't need permission to do it. You can just do it yourself. If you have revenue and you have users and you start growing, VCs will invest in you. You don't have to have a certain background. You just need traction and to be able to clearly explain what you're doing and why.
Yeah, I like that.
Fantastic.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for coming on, Danny. If people want to follow you and follow, Agentive, what are the best channels?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is where most auditors are. So we're going to be pretty active there. But you can follow me on Twitter at Danny Alberson, ALBERSON. And then same thing on LinkedIn. I think I'm Daniel Alberson there, ALBERSON. And you can find my company in my profiles, but we're goagentive.com as well. And would love to interact with you. And if you know any auditors that want less pain in their lives and better relationships with their clients, we'd love to meet them. And so please let us know if there's anyone we can help.
Will do.
Thanks for coming on, Danny.
Thank you so
we'll
much.
Stay in contact.